Hello and welcome to Beyond the Dollar. I'm Ibn Mabunda and we're coming to you live from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. Now, Zimbabwe's roads are compared to jungles precisely for various reasons. Lawlessness, creating extra lanes, driving toward oncoming traffic or wrong lanes, disobeying traffic lights, just to name a few. This has presented a danger to unsuspecting pedestrians, passengers, as well as other drivers. Have our roads become a survival of the fittest? Is driving now an extreme sport? The Operation Tame the Traffic Jungle was launched by the police after they argued that the operation was necessitated by the lawlessness in Zimbabwe's major cities and towns, where some drivers are openly causing chaos and congestion by driving against oncoming traffic through red robots, loading and offloading passengers at undesignated places on busy roads, and recently disobeying and kidnapping police officers. While reckless conduct by public vehicles and unregistered mshika-shikas who carry passengers come to an end, will this blitz bear any fruit, we ask? Or some allege it is just a money-making scheme by the police, which is which. At a government level, the Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, Honorable Kazembe, today held a meeting to review draft proposals on how to tame the traffic jungle in the major roads and cities of Zimbabwe. Our discussion is traffic chaos. Can the jungle actually be tamed? Join me and my guests on Beyond the Dollar. Welcome back to Beyond the Dollar, broadcasting to you live from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. I'm Ibn Mabunda. Now, to you, our viewers, do follow the conversation via our social media handles at Zim Papers TV Network, as well as at ZTN Prime. Please note that all the views expressed on this program are those of our guests and do not reflect the views of Zim Papers 1980 Limited or those of ZTN Prime. Our subject is traffic chaos. Can the jungle be tamed? I'm joined in studio by Samson Nananga, Zimbabwe Passenger Transport Association, and on the phone from Bulawayo, the state of kings and queens, I am joined by Nobuhle Sibanda, the secretary of Vuka Uzimele Transport Association, VUTA, and Ndaba Mabunda, the marketing director of Chova Mubayiwa, as well as Kipan Lovo, who should join us later, the spokesperson for the Bulawayo Public Transport Association, the BUPTA. We'd invited Harare City Mayor, His Worship Jacob Mafume. Unfortunately, he could not make it for this conversation. However, we will proceed as scheduled. Now, to get the ball rolling, I'll start with you, Samson. What can you say is the major problem on Zimbabwe's roads?
Good afternoon, listeners. I think the biggest problem to start with, we can go to planning. Have we ever planned for this kind of traffic which we are having at this present moment? Secondly, we have got the driver behavior. We need to change our attitude. I'm also a driver. So all those things, they will lead to where we are right now.
Right. Now, Bulawayo has been an epitome of order and cleanliness, and it has enjoyed some form of organized transport system, at least over the years. However, that seems to have changed. Reports of lawlessness that have been closely linked to Harare are now in Bulawayo. What has changed? I'll start with you, Nobuhle.
Having been driving along Bulawayo's roads also for more than 10 years, so there's a new culture of driving in Bulawayo where someone will just decide to suddenly, they will overtake you, then suddenly stop in front of you abruptly. What am I supposed to do? And people will just decide to pick passengers, especially in Shiga. There are no proper picking and drop-off points. So I think that has led to the jungle that we are in. and the disrespect of some of the rules of the highway code I come.
Right. I'll pose the same question to you, Ndaba, to say, what is it that has resulted in the change that is being witnessed in Bulawayo?
Thank you very much. I hope you are all well. Unfortunately, I think we hear much of what my colleagues were saying connected is a bit poor. However, answering your question, I will be briefly suggesting this, that the population generally countrywide has increased, meaning that the traveling public has grown quite tremendously over the past 5 to 10 years. So by so doing, it means the demand for transport, yet the road infrastructure on its own has remained stagnant or narrow. It has improved to accommodate the volume of traffic that has grown over the years. Taking, for instance, one of our busiest roads in Bulawayo, Luveve Road, it's got only 2 lanes leading to town and 2 lanes leading outside town. Yet this road accommodates suburbs stretching from Butterfield right up to Calgary Park, of which Calgary Park on its own is a city in terms of population. It's got over 75,000 people. It follows, therefore, that the number of meetings has increased that carry people to and from town using that road. Secondly, the chaotic situation that we are crying foul about has been caused generally by the limited number of control over our vehicles, whereby it's been an opportunity for us as companies or associations be given the opportunity to control the flow of traffic. Definitely, we would find solutions because those are our vehicles and the traveling public are our responsibility. Thank you for now.
Right. Now, we have seen the launch of the Tame the Jungle Blitz by the police. I'll start with you, Samson, to say some critics contend that these have degenerated into more like catch and release, cat and mouse type of games without any tangible, meaningful results at the end of the day. Because it seems as though you have a blitz this week, and then the next 2-3 weeks we are back right where we were. Is that the case? If so, why is that? What could be done to change the narrative?
Personally, I think enforcing the law should not be about blitz. We should educate our citizens. Everyone wants to do a good thing. And at the end of the day, nobody would want to be on the wrong side of the law. But remember, there are factors which are forcing the drivers and the commuting public to behave in the manner they are behaving. So I believe we need education first. Because if we jump into enforcement without education, without educating the citizens, I don't see it working. Because they have the reasons they are doing, which needs to be addressed.
Are you saying that if there is a good reason for somebody to steal, I stole because I was hungry, therefore you are implying that if we have got what we're seeing now, and if there is a solid reason for me to run through a red robot, then across the board we should be lenient towards some of the unbecoming behavior because the drivers and the road users have some kind of a reason?
Not exactly like the example which you gave. We can't say let's break the law in that manner. But where I'm coming from is, remember, we've got a lot of problems. For example, the element of picking and dropping. Do we have the proper bus stops in the first place? Do we have the proper terminals? For example, a good example, okay, it's Mbaremsika. That thing was long designed maybe in 1972, if not mistaken, or 1969. And it was, remember, that period was, there was racial discrimination. It was not properly built for travelers. But now this is the main terminal which we have in Zimbabwe. And it doesn't meet any standard. So at the end of the day, that's why you see people dotted everywhere. What we are saying is, as a city, we should have proper infrastructure. We should have proper planning. Let's say we don't have today, but tomorrow we have. But we have that planning in our planning. So at the end of the day, it's not like people commit crime. I'm not on the side of people who commit crimes. But I'm saying that, but do we have the infrastructure?
Has enough capacity been built for that? Ndaba, I'll pose the same question to you to say, given the series of blitz that we have seen taking place and orchestrated, of course, by law enforcing agents, have they borne any fruit? From a Bulawayo perspective, would you say that you have seen some positives and tangibles out of these exercises?
Fortunately, in the there is some coordination that exists between the law enforcement agents as well as companies and associations, whereby that low degree of education which has been said by my previous speaker is already in existence in Bulawayo. We have seen the law enforcement agents traveling in and around the city, educating people on how to cross the laws and how to and when to go and what their buses and from work. We also, as administration company, operate and collaborate with the enforcement agents to that effect. However, the challenge that mainly facing us here in Bulawayo is that a system of organization is still at the grassroots level, where there are still in existence some people who are not part of this performing mayor. These are the people who are people to some sport where it is illegal to load and offload passengers. So it's a process that is going to develop with time. However, the main cause of illegal point of document keeping passengers is caused mainly by infrastructural challenges, where you find that as you enter the road, it would be very narrow. The dropping off points are so small that they can't accommodate the number of vehicles that we have. For instance, if you talk of a dropping point lane along 4th Street, buses from all over the country drop passengers there. Commuter omnibuses from all over the western side to drop passengers in the short spot. The Ekodini itself is not yet complete to accommodate that flow of traffic which may include big traffic. So that infrastructural challenge is the main cause. As for enforcement, I cannot say the law enforcement grappling. They are actually assisting reduce the chaotic situation that occurs in and around it. However, it's difficult for all of us, including the law enforcement, because it's quite a challenge. The volume of traffic is now outgrown the size of the roads that enter.
Right. Moving on to and the same question again, I would like to pose that question to Nobutle to say, what is your assessment of the situation, especially given the fact that we are seeing these series of blitz carried out by the police, perhaps against what's taking place in Bulawayo as well as in the neighboring cities?
Thank you, sir. Well, I suppose police are doing their job. As law enforcement, I suppose, maybe there are situations and areas where people will be breaking the law. Hence, the police officers come in. But, however, I've got a question. In a scenario where you find a police officer jumping into a vehicle or a moving vehicle so that they can arrest an offender, is now something else.
Right, of course, quite concerning. We've been seeing some of those videos making the rounds on the various social media platforms, and something that I believe that the police should also be looking into. Now, Samson, what are some of the challenges that are being faced by cross-border transporters?
I think the same challenges, they are not leaving anybody. The issues of traffic jam, all those areas where there is no proper movement of traffic, it's affecting everybody. Despite the fact that you are on cross-border and or you are a local player, remember we use the same facilities, it's the same road, the same infrastructure. So at the end of the day, no one is paid.
Right. What then becomes the solution? Again, coming back to the subject of the cross-border traders, cross-border travelers rather, what would be a win-win situation that would make it easier and safer for those travelers to access their routes and not get to be stuck in traffic, especially because we are speaking of a SADC convention. We're also speaking about the African Continental Free Trade Area, what Zimbabwe is also party to.
Let me be very honest with you here. The biggest problem is in any city, you need a robust public transport system. If you don't have a mass public transport system, the roads becomes very small, the space becomes very small. Where you are supposed to have maybe a train or a bus, carrying, for example, a bus carries up to 100 people. You are having about small vehicles, those mshiga-shiga, carrying maybe, they've got a seating capacity of 4, but maybe we know that they carry up to 10. So when you are supposed to have one vehicle, at the end of the day, you are forced to have 10 vehicles at a given time. So the movement of 10 vehicles against one vehicle is different. So at the end of the day, if I'm not mistaken, I think in 2022, there was a proposal which have been made through the Ministry of Local Government that we should have buses back in town. So that at the end of the day, we have shuttles traveling from one end of the city to the other. That will reduce traffic. That will reduce all the problems which are made, all those errors, the red robots, this and that. Because at the end of the day, there's free flow of vehicles. But if you say everybody have to drive to town, then that's the biggest problem which we have. That at the end of the day, no road can suit that. So we should address the issue of mass public transportation. I think it's a big issue on that one. Maybe also, if you see on most developed countries, they encourage cycling. Here you can't see anybody cycling. It would be weird for you to ride your bicycle from Budiriro coming to town, from even Borodo coming to town. Everybody wants to drive.
Right. Let's move on to another subject. Combis are often accused. I'll pose this one to Nobuhle to say combis are often accused of ignoring road traffic regulations, driving in the wrong lane, using wrong picking up and dropping off points. The question we never ask is it hard to follow the traffic rules and regulations in this country? Nobuhle.
Well, I don't think it's hard to follow them. But remember, with conflict, everyone is making it at the end of the day. So it's a cutthroat competition. So the driver has got the target and knows how much money he has to make end of the day. So what's uppermost at the back of his mind is the money. He doesn't consider, or it's not all of them. It's not like a statement, but there are some who break the law just to make as much money as they can make in the shortest possible time. But then again, another issue. I think possibly with combi drivers, it could be age group that is employed as the drivers. The young drivers obviously are kind of carefree. They'll try and break as many rules as they can for whatever reason. I'm not too sure. I may not expect, but I suspect maybe the reason could be driving cost, could be having too young drivers, and maybe the rush to make as much money in the shortest possible time. Yeah.
Right. Daba, given what Nobutle has made reference to, is it hard to follow the road rules in Zimbabwe?
Definitely not. Definitely not. It's not hard for drivers to follow the rules and regulations here in Zimbabwe. Quite easy. Imagine a scenario where, if I may use this example, if a traffic police officer is in uniform, that uniform only instills some discipline in him or her, exercising his duty. But if the same traffic officer comes to duty in plain clothes, that's when we see some of them jumping into the windows and vehicles subject. They become people because they are not in uniform. So it follows therefore that if all our drivers and conductors could drive vehicles that are identifiable by the form of branding, that would make the driver of that vehicle instill that control in himself, because we know that his or her vehicle that he is driving is easily identified. So we are trying and appealing to the authorities above that the proposals that will be forwarded prior to this interview be enforced or encouraged, where every vehicle that is a public service vehicle be identifiable in the form of being part of an association, a team. Let's say, for example, here in Bulawayo, we have got 4 associations there. Let all the vehicles be identified with the brand, Buzmele, Tovambaiwa, Gupta, Blasity. These identification brands be so vivid to the traveling public that whenever he or she sees a vehicle coming, attracted by the brand, the driver himself automatically self-discipline because of the type of vehicle he or she may be driving at the time. So it's very hard for a branded vehicle to see it crossing red button willy-nilly. But for this investigation, it's part of the main. I wouldn't say there are a few elements who can do the wrong thing, but it's quite minimal for a branded a driver in uniform to drive recklessly on the road, no matter how narrow the road is. So my plea is a solution to this would be to have every public service vehicle branded, every member of every operator of the vehicle that carries people belong to an association of his or her own choice. By so doing, as associations will collaborate in bringing up a code of conduct that controls the driver, operator, and conductor behavior. And that code of conduct definitely be the same. So for that matter, it means everyone who it belongs to a recognized system would be here. Thank you, sir.
Right. Now, of course, I will pose the same question to you, Samson. It seems hard for some drivers to follow the basic of road rules in Zimbabwe's roads. Is that the case? If it is so, how can that be remedied?
Okay, it's not. But like my colleague have just said, from the association point of view, it's very easy to control all that menace. But we need support from government, is associations. For the past period, maybe up to this point, joining an association was a voluntary thing where you could do or not. But because the enforcers, they can be everywhere. So self-regulation is the way to go, where people and associations regulate themselves. Maybe my colleague have said most of the things, like branding and everything. Like the issue of combis, they need to be branded so that misbehaving is reduced. And at the same time, the main cause of that kind of driving this and that, this industry is suffering from overtrading. There are too many players in these roads. There is no statistics that is it still worthy for the people to keep investing in combis or in what? So that at the end of the day, that person is forced to make so many rounds because maybe on their queue, where we need about 50 combis, for example, there's 150 combis. So we need statistics to know that this particular route or this particular suburb have got so many people and it needs so many vehicles. So that at the end of the day, we don't do wrong investment, which will make us, at the end of the day, break the law.
Have you, as an organization, tried to look into the statistics in terms of the number of vehicles that are there and the population of various suburbs in perhaps the city that you sound from?
On the long distance, yes, we've done that. We've done for Harare Blawayo, we've done for Harare Mutare. That's when we came with these numbers, that all those routes are overtraded. And at the end of the day, you realize that there are some areas which doesn't even have transport.
Okay.
So we need to balance supply and demand. So here in Zimbabwe, there's nothing like that. I think that question is just to go to the Ministry of Transport, that before they allocate their permits and everything, that statistics should be carried.
Right. Now, Ndaba, recently, Bulawayo has made headlines over the issue of push carts in the city as transporters. How is this affecting you? How is the coming in of push carts affecting the operations of transporters?
You can come again.
There has been the coming in of push carts in Bulawayo. How has it affected transport operators? How have the push carts affected the operations of transporters in Bulawayo?
Personally, I would say the push carts a role to play in carrying luggage for our traveling public from a certain point where it is illegal for our public to load, bringing them to the point of loading, that is the terminal, Egodini, ticket pay hyper, etc. we do not condone our vehicles to go and load passengers, for example, at the market, where they are pushed us to carry the luggage to our terminal. So the sprouting of push cars, if they are controlled to operate within the limits, that is a welcome development. It's just like what was suggested earlier by someone to say we must introduce bicycle. A push cart and a bicycle is something that is directly related to one another. However, when a push cart now ferries goods and passengers to the destinations as far as 3 to 5 kilometers away from the terminal, then it becomes a problem. The other thing with push carts is they have to have their own self-governing structure, which is supervised by the Ministry of Local Government, where they do not interfere with the processes that us as commuter omnibus to advance. I'm not seeing anything wrong with seeing a push cart delivering goods to a conventional bus loading, say, along Harare Road terminal, or say, Rankin, etc. It would be a means of reducing chaos within the CPT. But when the push cart extends his or area to places where our buses taking easy, that's why right now we have in collaboration with the other association that is Mita CPT. We do some patrols within the CPT to make sure that our vehicles don't flood. Passengers should walk through or we should hire taxi to our terminal.
Right. We are now joined on the line by the Harare City Mayor, Mr. Jacob Mafume. Now, you are on record for having said that Harare is the golden goose that lays the golden eggs for Zimbabwe. Now, looking at the state of the roads of Zimbabwe and of course the blitz that have been carried out by the police, are you happy with the results that have been borne by the blitz series, if at all?
Well, the blitz, you mean the blitz for the road making?
The blitz by the police.
Okay, yeah, the blitz by the police. As you know, in Harare, we can have blitz, but normally they last effectively on the time of the blitz. They don't go beyond the point of the blitz. What we need is a sustainable approach to traffic management, policing, so that we are able to ensure that we don't have the traffic jungle that we are experiencing within the COVID sector and the traffic sector. We are trying to take an approach of using these blitzes and also using the voluntary approach to talk to the associations so that they have self-regulation. Because once we keep using hard law, it is difficult to create a sustainable approach in that sector.
Right. It seems Bulawayo has copied and pasted the Harare traffic menace into their roads. The question is this: as we prepare for the SADC summit, has Harare everything in place to ensure that that SADC summit is a success? Of course, I know that from the 28th we've got the SADC Industrialization Week. What is the state of affairs on Harare's roads from the mayor's perspective?
Well, we are ready. Remember that Harare is a city that is the DNA of holding huge conferences. We once held Chogam, we once held NAM, we hold big personalities from Michael Jackson to Bob Marley to peace concerts, All Africa Games. We are not a stranger to international conferences. We just had gone through a hiatus. We've got that DNA. The city can accommodate many activities at the same time. During last weekend we had Dynamo, we had the Indian cricket team in Harare. We are a city with capacity to do a lot of things at the same time. So we are not really worried about our ability to handle this conference. We have done all the preparations together with the government. We are working on the roads, the beautification of Harare, and the final touches that we are putting to various processes. And we are very confident that by the time the visitors start coming in from Monday, they will be faced with a very welcoming environment. In our culture, a chicken is killed when the visitors are coming. And this chicken is ready. They will be eating thighs and wings.
Right. I will come back to you on the chicken analogy as we progress with the conversation. But for now, I want to bring it to the commuter operators to say, earlier on, I think it was Ndaba who made reference to how there are four operator organizations in Bulawayo. And of course, here in Harare, there are multiple of those. Samson, I'm sure you would bear testimony to that. Critics contend that there seems not to be a central portal or a unified voice by these operators that would or could bring about a certain degree of consonance and unison in addressing the challenges that be, as well as also in speaking with one voice to the market and being able to engage in conversations with various stakeholders. Any efforts at this point, Samson, to bring that unity? What is the level of engagement that you have, for example, with the organization that Ndaba represents and the organization, of course, that Nobutle is representing from Bulawayo?
Yes, we have a relationship as associations. We've got platforms where we meet. For example, I know the Chovambaiwa and other associations in Bulawayo. When we held an Indaba beginning of this year, we were together sharing ideas with the Minister of Home Affairs, Minister of Transport and Local Government. We were there. So maybe only like now, today we've got the mayor. I'm very happy to hear that he's quite confident with the preparation which we have, because his confidence is our confidence. But at the end of the day, maybe as citizens, we feel that there's more which needs to be done collectively with city council, with associations, to make a better Zimbabwe, a better Harare.
Right, I'll come back to you on what you want to be done. The mayor said that the chicken is ready, breasts and thighs will be served. I'll come back to you on that particular subject. Now, coming back to you, Nobutle, as well as Ndaba, what is your perspective and your take on having a centralized portal, a centralized organization that represents the interests of commuters across the country?
You can find that memory.
Can I start?
Sure, please.
Oh, okay. I think, yes, that sounds a very good idea to me. Because, like, if there's an organization set up for commuters to represent themselves or representatives, it's a platform where they will critique us, identify maybe mistakes that we made, and maybe they could have even positive, maybe critiquing, but like positive, should I say, points, as it were, that they contribute to us as well, to tell us or guide us as to the way forward, some of the routes that we may take, so on and so forth, the pick up and stop up points, or maybe say at the level of, at what level, where they stay. They could identify like a proper pick-up point where they want to be picked up and dropped off. Maybe like busy hours of the day where they may need more transport or more vehicles, so on and so forth, so that it makes the whole management of the traffic system a lot easier if we bring them on board. And above all, I think they know the problem of the places where they reside or stay. We as commuter operators may not understand their problems as the way they understand them.
Right. Of course, we continue to look into what that actually means for the city and, of course, for the multiple cities across Zimbabwe. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we continue, of course, with the conversation. We will also be taking a look at our social media handles for questions that are coming through from the viewers that are joining us live via the Zim Papers TV network, as well as the ZTN Prime across, of course, Facebook as well as YouTube, respectively. Beyond the Dollar, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
My fundamental question, of course, is ZEC ready?
The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is definitely ready.
Should Zimbabwe dollarize?
Makativimbisa kuti mari iyi mari chaiyo chaiyo.
Dura, where you ZANU-PF.
Are you saying the police are lying? Been watching, of course, Zimbabwe's premier current affairs program.
We are a structured political organization that is mathematical and scientific and methodical and quantitative.
Unlike our friends here, we don't quack about competition.
Because we're also judged out there. This man is a liar.
That is phenomenal.
For no holds barred, candid and objective debates. Watch The Chase with Andy Hodges every Thursday, 9 p.m. only on ZTN Prime, DSTV, channel 294.
Welcome back to Beyond the Dollar. We're broadcasting to you live from Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. We are discussing the traffic situation in Zimbabwe's roads, and we have got multiple stakeholders that are joining us for this conversation. We have Samson Nananga from the Zimbabwe Passenger Transport Association. On the phone, I'm joined by Nobutle Sibanda, the Secretary for Vuka Uzimele Transport Association, VUTA in Bulawayo. We also have Ndava Mabunda, the Marketing Director for Chova Mubaiwa. We also have the Harare City Mayor, Mr. Jacob Mafume. And of course, we continue with the conversation here. Now, the city of Bulawayo recently built a state-of-the-art Egodini taxi rank, but there are reports of some taxis not ranking in the designated ranks at the moment. The question to you, Ndava, is why is that? Is that the case? If so, why is that?
One thing for some is Egodini rank was opened prematurely. It was ready to accommodate all vehicles in and around the country. But originally, it was supposed to accommodate long distance buses and meter and meter cities, including supermarkets, etc., that the mushrooms in and around At the moment, the estimate is too small for the number of businesses. Just companies only cannot be served effectively inside equity. Secondly, the distance from equity to these illegal points you are talking about, which is around 700 meters, is dark at night. It becomes pretty difficult for to walk a distance of 700 meters in darkness to go and catch a combat. So there is need for that area to be completed. For that area where there are no buildings in between, some construction being effected and completed, so that there is space to the traveling from town to interview. As we speak right now, it's pretty hard, especially at night, because we have heard reports of massive robberies taking place in transit. The reason why we are looking at non-prescribed areas at the moment, some of it is unscrupulous. Some of the vehicles are outside our control as associations. Remember, I think as 4 companies or 4 associations in Holston. So anyone who is operating outside those parameters, we do not have any control for. Until I can call it a case, it's worth eating. It's going to be difficult for us.
Another subject, this one directed to the mayor of Harare. We have seen the proliferation of parallel ranks across the CBD. Appears to be a parallel rank there. And then you've also got the issues of vendors. How are you addressing these matters, especially with...
To follow a voluntary approach. Should that voluntary approach not work, we will then try to implement the law to its full extent. But we are, however, a cat and mouse relationship with them. What we require is an orderly city, a city where people operate from designated areas that are illegal, that are discussions with commuter omnibus associations. We are hoping that these discussions will bear fruit. We're also going to be engaged in discussions with the vendors that they must understand and appreciate to do so. They will leave the city and other authorities no option but to implement the law. And normally that approach does not augur well as it leaves.
From the commencement of the SADC Industrialization Week, which serves as a precursor to the SADC Summit. You are just a little while ago, which is indicative of some of the engagements that are being spearheaded by the Ministry of Home Affairs, as well as with just 4 days from the commencement of the SADC Industrialization Week.
Well, it has to be done, and we are confident that we will be implementing the measures that are necessary to deal with this process. Proceed. I'm not sure how long this interview is.
We are just about 7 minutes out before the conclusion of this program. I'll move on to you, Samson. There are reports of some illegal activities taking place at some of these taxi ranks. It looks like we just lost the mayor there, hence the preceding question to that sound. But we're grateful, of course, to have had him on the program. Now, let's talk about the alleged occurrences of the abuse of alcohol and the close proximity to liquor stores, which seems to be affecting the normal order of events at some of these taxi ranks. Your take?
Okay, I thought maybe the mayor is one who is responsible with that question, because they are the lawmakers. They are the one who set the pace. It's so disheartening to know that on the bus ranks, we have bars, we are selling liquors. And at the end of the day, it's not only liquor, it's drugs. So can we have those things on where we have got drivers who are going to drive the public? That is not allowed. And maybe also what I was from the mayor, like what he's saying, that because we've got the SADC summit, we now need to remove the vendors. I don't think it's proper. Let's just, whether there's summit, whether there's no summit, let's do things correct. Like now I know there's the issue of the illegal rings and this and that. It's not like we have them like now. They've been there for years. Why are we allowing that? Let's just build proper ranks. We have correct infrastructure so that at the end of the day we'll be able to penalize whoever breaks the law.
Right. I'm hearing sounds of some form of disconnections from some of our guests on the program. I'm not sure who we still have. Ndaba, are you still on the line? That sounds like a third one. But we'll continue. Nobutle, are you still on the line? Ndaba, are you still on the line? All right. It looks like we've had a connection, a problem with some of our guests. Now, lastly, as we draw toward the close of our conversation, I'll pose this one to you, Samson, to say there's been a case of a police officer who was kidnapped by combi operators. A very worrying and a very concerning situation. Your thoughts on that?
I would say at times the way we enforce the law, it's not right, it's not good. Like we all know that it seems as if we have got an appetite of cat and mouse game, which I think is totally wrong. Why can't we have the digital enforcement? We have we have our CVR, we have our everything. If somebody breaks the law and they run away, why can't we just take the number plate? And at the end of the day, we know where that vehicle, who is the owner and where to find it. Why do we need to arrest the driver there and there? Let's apply better way. Let's have better way of enforcement, so that at the end of the day, we don't have these issues of kidnapping. And I would like to think maybe this officer, though I don't know even the story, what happened, but the fact that the police officer want to drive the vehicle or want to get inside the vehicle, do we have any reason of getting inside of somebody who is breaking the law?
Right. Questions there that remain hanging, and of course that would need to be attended to in successive programs. We have come to the conclusion of today's episode of Beyond the Dollar. I would like to thank my guests in studio, Samson Nananga, the Zimbabwe Passenger Transport Association. We also want to thank the Mayor of Harare, Mr. Jacob Mafume, Nobutle Sibanda, Secretary for the VUCA Uzimele Transport Association, as well as Ndaba Mabunda, second Mabunda on this program, a Marketing Director from the Chova Mobaiwa. And of course, to you, our viewers, for your continued support. I would like to thank you for tuning in for today's program. Remember to follow us on our social media handles at Zimpapers TV Network, as well as at ZTN Prime. Your thoughts and views are important to us. I'm Ibn Mabunda, the money man. Let them do what they do. When we do what we do, we mean business. Thank you for watching.